right now in the world, there are so many people speaking about what it means to be a man. And there's a lot of debate around this. On one hand, you have the manosphere, and you have this whole entire movement aiming and targeting men to be, feel, act a certain way. And then you have the whole alternative side of things, which is what we are here, Sean and I, to discuss and talk about today, which actually isn't being talked about much, but offering a different perspective to this idea of masculinity, which we believe has been completely skewed and distorted and inverted in so many ways. And we can blame so many sources for that. But at the end of the day, there is a reclamation happening, a reclamation of true embodied masculinity, integrated masculinity, where the masculine and the feminine are merged together within the heart. And a man is leading from both his heart and his soul. And so that's what we're going to get into today. And I'm very, very excited to kick off this conversation. So let's dive in.
Yeah, glad to be here, man. I feel like this is a really important conversation because right now, as we all know, there's a war for our attention, and the media very deeply steers the consciousness of the collective, of all of us. And, with that Manosphere documentary coming out, there's all sorts of opinions and perspectives on it. And, I think a lot of people are going to watch that, and they're going to see the shadow of the masculine, of how a lot of men are operating today. And the thing to me is like, damn, a lot of the younger generations are looking to these guys for a model of masculinity that their dad didn't give them, that their culture didn't give them. And it's like, we were talking about this the other day, it's kind of like a gang sort of mentality where the younger generations are hopeless, they're lost, they don't have a strong sense of self. So they find a quote unquote alpha male leader to look up to give them some direction, and they don't realize that this guy is very deep in his own wounds and he hasn't really evolved beyond his adolescent consciousness. And I don't even say that as like a judgmental thing. I'm saying it from a perspective of like, I know that consciousness super deeply, and I still have shades of that as well, but I'm just aware of it. And these men in the documentary, to me, it's like they're giving a perfect example of A, survival, B, what the old model used to be of like, fuck it, collect materials, build wealth, status, women are objects, total disconnection from the heart. And then, one of the things that you see is that these guys are creating a persona for the public for their online presence, and then if you meet them in person, that's just not who they are. So it's like, it's all an act. It's all like this big bravoso facade that's going on, completely void of heart. And underneath that, there's a ton of fear, and there's a ton of scared little boy energy in there. And again, it's not judgmental. It's just being able to see through the lens of compassion of where the guy's at. And so I feel like this conversation that you and I are having and what we're representing comes from a very deep journey of knowing these parts of us, and deciding to go beyond that by opening the heart, by not being afraid to feel, and making that choice of, hey, you know what? I'm going to balance myself. I'm going to embrace that inner feminine. I'm going to know my empathy is a superpower instead of the nice guy expression, which is like getting walked on and letting the world kind of trample you. So this, I think it's so timely because this documentary coming out right now is also weaving in with a time where a lot of men are finding themselves coming into healing spaces, or at least asking the much deeper questions of meaning. Who are they? Their purpose? Where do I go from here? Who am I without these things? All that kind of stuff. So it's really leading into a much bigger conversation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And really, at the end of the day, what this is all about, and if you look at these men, right? And as you kind of reference there, kind of this scared little boy energy, and really underneath it all is just insecurity and in a sense of I'm not enough and unworthiness, right? You can look at and see through the layers, and it's generally first line of defense, which is the behaviors that are being, acted upon and displayed. And then beneath that are going to be fears. And then once you get to the depth of the psyche is the core wound, and the core wound and even core belief that I'm not enough. And, a big part of this conversation is that we're not speaking to you embracing your feminine so much that you become a quote unquote weak man. You can actually be so deeply embodied in your power, but the power is different, right? And this is where I believe this conversation, needs to go. And we need to look at what's happening in the world holistically right now. Okay. So if we look at the world itself, we see destruction, we see degradation, we see abuse, we see oppression of the planet, of Mother Earth, of the feminine, of children. And all of this stems down so deep to the root where there is a profound disconnection from the feminine. And when we're saying disconnection from the feminine, we're not speaking to genders right now. We're speaking to the feminine principle and energy, which is a core part of creation when blended together with the masculine. And when we have a disconnection from the feminine energy within us, specifically in us men, we aren't able to connect fully to our creativity, our imagination, our intuition, our sensitivity, our empathy, and all of these things that make us human, right? We have so deeply repressed and suppressed all of this in order to have and basically be in this mode of protection where we are constantly wearing masks. And we, as a result, are suffering so deeply inside of ourselves. And if you could hear the inner dialogue of a lot of these men, there is a lot of self-hatred, a lot of self-judgment. And this is all because of the programming and conditioning from the overall patriarchal system that we have existed in for so many years that has created a distortion of masculinity in a very, very small version of masculinity that's actually in its shadow expression. It's not in its true integrated state of expression. Whereas when we are in the integrated state where the feminine is that creative force leading from the heart, from wisdom, from love, is met with the masculine, where you are in this present grounded power. You are creating systems and structures that better the world, that help women and children, that help this planet to be stewarded into a higher frequency, a higher dimensional plane of awareness, and that we become connected not only with ourselves, but with nature, with our purpose, with our mission. And when you are a man leading from that place, you are unfuckwithable. And you are in this very confident, clear place where you are walking in the embodiment of your true power as the creator of your reality. And that's the conversation we need to be having, because any way you cut it, there's these extremes and everything gets skewed. What we're saying is Wu Wei, the Tao, the middle way, bringing these two forces, marrying them together, the sacred union within oneself.
Yeah.
That only happens when we're willing to come to the table and confront our shadow. That only happens when we're willing to confront our fear, to look deeply at ourselves, and most importantly, do this in brotherhood. This is the essence of what true men's work is. It's very confrontational, mostly with oneself and also with with others, and to be able to keep each other accountable and rise into a higher version and whole new perspective of what masculinity can be.
Yeah, well said. We're at this interesting nexus point where so many different paradigms are shattering and stories are changing. And as a result of that, there's a lot of instability going on everywhere, especially for men, and more especially for men who are fathers, who have families to provide for, things like that. The ground's kind of falling away from underneath them. And so there's this identity crisis. There's this, who am I? And one thing that I'm seeing on the media is right, because drama gets views, getting people's attention on the shadows get views, essentially. And it's sort of like highlighting, hey, here's the majority of men in the world. Like here's what the alpha men are. Here's what they're doing. This is the type of toxic men that are out there doing this stuff. But the guys who are doing work like we are, and in the healing spaces, and coming into their heart and confronting themselves, and finding that balance again with their own inner feminine, that's not really being televised. So a lot of people don't even know that it's happening. And a lot of people, they can't even fathom what that type of guy looks like, or what that type of community looks like, because it doesn't have the drama involved in it. It doesn't have these story arcs that are going to really hook your attention. And these guys that are on things like the manosphere, they've learned that this is what gets them attention. This is what gets them views. That being
Validation.
the holistic version of themselves, like peaceful, no one will pay attention to that. So they've learned to monetize this, and it's like, all right, what do we need to do to change that paradigm around? Because that's what all the young kids are looking at. That's what the world is looking at, and then they're forming their story off of it. So it's a really interesting thing of like, how can we start to make this storyline attractive? And I feel like it'll be, as more people start to heal and open up, just like we both know, when you change your frequency, you're resonating with completely different things, and you're drawn to way different things. So it's just highlighting, like, so many people are drawn still to the drama stuff right now. But there's a reason the heart's in the center. If you're too far down in your energy centers, you're in survival, you're in the me, selfish ego place, you don't give a fuck about anyone or anything. And like I said, women are objectified, procreation. You're in those are the animal centers. If you go too high, you're too spiritual, you're too floaty, you're too, up there in the clouds, not grounded into the earth, and you're just like, it'll all be taken care of, man. So the heart is really that beautiful place of power in the center that we all get to meet at. And it's not easy, because we made agreements as young kids. I was just thinking about this earlier. I made very strong agreements, Chris, to not feel certain things ever again when I was a child. One of them was rejection. One of them was authenticity, even. It was like, nope, I'm just going to do, and I'm going to be whoever I need to be to get liked, to be accepted, to fit in. That was the most important thing, all around survival. That goes so deep into the subconscious, into the psyche. And I think a lot of men right now are given the opportunity, which is also one of the hardest things you're ever going to do, to face off with that part of you that made the agreements and was like, nope, you'll die if you feel these things, if you look at these things. Now we're all being called to rewrite these agreements, and the courage of your heart, not the mental gymnastics of the mind, which is just way too overstimulated and just processing way too much information. The heart is able to just pierce right through it, and it's able to hold that stability. And if you can start to train it to have safety, to feel whatever needs to be felt, that's where you start to get brought to that exact place that you're talking about, that healthy, strong masculine that can just witness, that can just see and be in any storm, whether that's from a woman with her wild emotions or your own wild emotions that want to come out. Whatever is going on in the world, you're just grounded and centered in that heart space. And that is the only place that healing can actually occur, when things are being witnessed from that place of the heart. Compassion. I see you. It's okay. There's nothing to fear. It's all part of it. That is the safety that we're all needing in order to make this transformation, in order to go through this birth canal that we're all being put through right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. There's so much there, and I'm just seeing in my mind's eye the image of, that solid oak tree that is flexible and malleable enough where it's able to sway in the storms and be a part of those storms, but still hold its center, right? That's the quiet power, right? That's the true power that we're speaking to. Not domination, control, and manipulation, but the true power of being rooted in oneself, in one's authenticity. That is where you become so steady and you are operating from your true strength. And this is all stuff that we're just not taught. We're not, there is no fucking handbook for men to be able to say, oh, this is what it means. Like you said, we are literally rewriting the script in real time. That means that we are going to have to walk this path, and not see 2 feet in front of us and be able to stumble and fall on our face, but come back up. And, this is all things that you and I have done for way over a decade now, of this deep inner work, and committed to ourselves and continue to be students of this path. But, and this, I can attest to you as well as myself. There's been so many times where, I have yet to find my way without all of having any really resemblance of healthy masculinity growing up in my life. And that's the blueprint, we've been given, is that the father's absent, or he's emotionally checked out, or whatever it is, right? He's busy drinking or busy working too much. And, all these things, right, that we see as what men are. And there's no rites of passage, there's no initiation, there's none of it. So what I want to really bring to the table here is that compassion that, these men that we see online or in these documentaries or whatever it is, looking for that validation. It's like your heart goes out to them and says, hey, yeah, like, brother, like, love you. And I see you, but like, let's come back here, because there's a deeper conversation. And when we peel it back, if you're willing to go there down to the depth of those layers, you're going to be swimming in this pool of insecurity. And we don't have to operate that way, right? We need it, in the sense of living out this dynamic version of masculinity, but then be able to come back and to look at that and to actually realize that we are whole as we are. And that requires us to do the shadow work. It requires us to look at ourselves and go deep into that well of that fear. And that's not an easy thing. And like you said, it's not the glamorous thing, right? Like, what we're talking about here is not sexy. It's not going to, get millions of views, although I hope it does. And I'm going to put that
Yeah.
intention out there.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, we are having to ultimately create this shift. And I know, that the right men that are listening to a conversation like this probably get some haters. That's all right. I'm open to that. I don't really care. I'm confident and convicted in what we're saying. But there are men out there that are desiring a new path and a new way. And this is the model, right? And I feel that, based on our experiences of the men that we've led through our retreats and now in our online brotherhood, like, this is the way forward. And I know that when more men are doing this work, are actually ready to heal and grow and expand themselves into a true model of leadership, masculine leadership, this world is going to change. It has to, because we have created a whole opposite version of this, and we've seen what happens. It doesn't fucking work. Look at the world. It's very simple to see. The world we see now is burning. It's in fucking chaos, and a new
Yeah.
man is rising from the ashes. And I'm
Yeah.
just excited about it.
Yeah, it is exciting in that way, because it's like both are happening in such a magnified way right now, because a lot of men are choosing the healing path, and then a lot of men are going deeper into the shadow unknowingly, and both of those are kind of existing right alongside of each other. And I know in my own arc of my process of going from being a boy to a man, and I don't fully even consider myself entirely there yet. I'm still working out a lot of these parts. But one beautiful gift it's given me is when I used to watch these types of guys, and they would trigger me, and I would judge them, and I would be angry at them and being like, why are you doing that? Why are you poisoning the mind of these younger generations? And like, just doing this all for clicks and rage bait and not caring about the bigger picture. It's like, No, I actually get that. I actually get that. My unhealed teenager in a man's body would be doing the same thing, clout
Yep.
chasing, wealth and status, women. So like I get that, but ultimately you finally get to the place where you realize it's empty. It's all empty and there's nothing there for you. It's all just smoke and mirrors. And you know, the compassion that comes in, I don't judge those guys anymore. Actually, like I can feel, even as I'm like thinking about them, my heart opens up and I'm not in that angry place that I used to be in when I would see that. And it's like, dude, I see you, man. And God, I wanna give that hurt inner teenager or little boy a hug and just let him know, like, hey, he's okay. And he can feel these things and he doesn't have to run from them anymore. And, you know, we all get to be there for each other. We get to step in and you know, like you said, this is the only way this planet is gonna change, because when a man starts to balance his feminine energy, all of a sudden separation dissolves, right? He comes into that place of oneness where it's like, I mean, these are all the things Jesus taught, all the ascended master guys that were here like trying to tell us this for so long. We just weren't ready to hear it yet. Now it's waking up in all of us, and so many of us have ears to hear it. And it's like, oh, I live on this beautiful garden called Mother Earth that is sentient, that wants to provide, and it embodies that quality of that feminine nature. And when I'm in that place of healing, I'm one with her. You know, maybe, you know, for me, I started hugging trees. I started taking barefoot walks in nature, and I'm like, wow, I feel so at home. I feel so peaceful, and there's no drama going on. There's no conflict or, you know, like, because I think that gives a lot of men purpose, some like conflict, drama. And if you don't have a sense of that at the deeper level, it's very easy to cling on to that and go for that ride. So like, I totally get that. And again, compassion for those guys in that place. I was in that place too for a while. You're
Yeah.
trying to grab anything that you can when when there's no foundation beneath you. So the invitation here and all the work that we do is like, hey brother, we're here to anchor in you leading yourself from a place of wholeness, from a place of I'm okay, I'm complete, I am good enough as I am. And what is your life going to look like from that place? How are your relationships going to look like? And if enough of us are doing this, what's the world going to look like? It has to change. The mirror has to change when enough people are anchoring in whatever you want to call it, that frequency, that energy. And right now we're just seeing very publicly the shadows come up to the surface, and it's easy to, you know, go into a fearful place around that. But to me, it's like, I couldn't be more grateful. I couldn't be more excited. I'm like, finally, these shadows are up in the front for everybody to see. And every single time that happens in the human history, that's always the precursor to the birth of something completely new. So that is like, to me, something to get very excited about, and highlighting that we're ready to make this jump. And women always go first with this kind of thing because they're in tune with these cycles, with the earth. Men they always lag a little bit behind because we're not designed that way like women. But now it's our turn to come up. Like, we're finally in that place of like, all right, the baton's over to you guys, and we're ready to do this, you know, and we got to do it together because it's fucking deep.
Yeah.
This is deep shit. This is like, to heal your inner child and peel back all those layers. Like, it is no walk in the park. So
Well,
we're
it's
here for
generational
those
too.
brothers. What's
It's
that?
gen it's generational, right? We're healing
Yeah.
lineages through this. And that's the other
Yeah.
point to this, is that we're doing the work for our father, their fathers, and everybody that came before them. And so that's a big, it's a big karmic load to be able to transmute and alchemize. And so, but that's the beautiful thing. It's the what you see on the other side of this process and doing this inner work, this self mastery work, is that your life just begins to change. And I actually think it's important to paint that picture. So, what does an integrated, embodied man look like in his power? right? And perhaps you can add to what I'm about to share. But, what I see is a man walking in clarity. He's confident and knows who he is at his core. He knows his divinity, but he also knows his humanness. And he is leading the charge and being this in his power center of his own life. He knows he's the creator of his reality. No longer is he a victim to life and believing that life is happening to him and all of the things that are going on circumstantially, situationally. All of those things are not against him. They're actually for him, and they're leading him back to himself and who he truly is at his core. And as a creator, he is commanding reality, but also knows he's in this dance with the flow and the intelligence of life, and he's leading from purpose. He knows his mission, and he's walking in that every single day, using his creative feminine life force energy to be able to direct at creating a better world because he's in service to the whole. And as a result, he is a prosperous being. It's okay to have the material realm and the wealth, but also then directing that and stewarding that wealth to better the world. And so this man is balanced in both these spheres. And most importantly, he's leading from the heart. He's leading from his own intuition. He's feeling before he makes a move. And he's saying, is this the right step? Tuning into the intelligence of his body to be able to then continue to walk into the light and share his gifts from this place. And of course, implementing from the beautiful mind that he can use paired with his heart to implement structures and systems that build things up and not destroy and tear things down. And as a result, his relationships improve, his relationship to his partner, to his children, if he has them, to his family, right? The women in his life, they feel safe because they can soften, they can surrender, and they can know that they have a powerful, integrated man leading the charge who is regulated and safe in his own nervous system, and therefore creating this frequency and this vibrational field in which she can fully trust. And therefore, the polarity of that relationship, if it is a heterosexual relationship, the polarity of that relationship is balanced. And there's a fire, there's a charge, there's a passion, right? And there's no more dullness. And even with his kids, he can actually speak to his kids. His kids can see a man that can access emotional depth, but also lead them and support them and steward them and believe in them. Right. So it's like, fuck, man, who doesn't want to be the embodiment of that man? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. I don't know what else you want to add there, but that's what wanted to come through.
Yeah. I guess what's there for me around that, I had a couple of images coming through, and with all the work that we've done and the retreats and groups that we've been in with other men, it's such a palpable difference when you see a guy that is connected to his inner child. When that child's not in a cage anymore or being locked in the dungeon, you see the lightness on his face. There's a lightness in his body. His imagination's open. His playfulness side is showing. He's not afraid of it and hiding it in shame anymore, thinking it's not okay. He's so okay with himself internally and doesn't need validation from the external world ever again, that his own inner child feels super safe to express and just be itself. And I think any guy who's able to do that level of inner work is the most free. He can
Yep.
express who he is in any moment. He's relaxed and just in that place in that beautiful dance with life where his child's basically on his shoulders. Like he's got the two archetypes going where he's the king and he's the magical child. And you need that magical child. You need that imagination open to create the life of your dreams where there's actual fulfillment and you're actually enjoying your experience. If that child is shut down because it doesn't feel safe, your king's a tyrannical ruler, and it dominates and it imprisons, and that child that has no access to anything, and you lose connection because life is that child. The innocence of life is that child. Like that's the essence of the divine. And when we repress that and we bury things on top of that, it causes all the issues that we see. So the thing that brings me the most joy in talking about this example of the new man that's coming forth, God, it's so fun to be around them. It's like we can joke, we can laugh, we're going and we're having deep conversations. We're in the moment, and we're both people that are existing with that child on our shoulders, and that steadiness of like, hey, we can handle what we need to handle. But for the most part, I'm leading with that child, with the open imagination, for creative ideas to um, be able to imagine a more beautiful world and what that could actually look like, and what our role and our place is within that. Because if that child's not there, we have no imagination. We're stuck in the logic.
Yep.
And most men are operating from there. And all they're doing is looping in past memory shit, and mostly negative memories. And there's no creative energy. So it's just the same thing over and over again. And they're in a prison to their logic. And I know a lot of intelligent men that are trapped in their intellect and have no imagination going on. They override their little boy inside, because they're like, they never learned to open that up, because this got valued in society. This became their sense of identity. The left brain became their sense of like, this makes me feel powerful. This makes me feel like somebody, right? But that's not true power. That
No.
is a facade. A man who's right there with his child and his king protecting that is the exact guy that we're talking about. And I'm excited, even just as I go through that process with myself and being around guys like you and other men who are starting to step up as leaders and show what that can actually look like, because we need those models. We need to be around guys like that and actually feel what their aura is like, what their energy is like, not just online, but in person, of like, this guy is real. This guy can feel like I can be myself around him. What a gift that is. So it's just such a beautiful opportunity in front of us, with
Yeah.
this new model coming forth. And I'm dedicating the rest of my journey to that, for myself, and helping other guys come to that place within themselves. So it seems that it's such a big mission right now.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive, and it's so important. It's so important. And I feel that this is a good moment to, extend an invitation to any guy that is listening to this right now, any man that's tuning into this message, and you're feeling the resonance of what Sean and I are speaking to. We're really passionate about this, as you can see, right? That's no secret. And so we've decided to, how can we come together even more to create spaces for men to come into, because there are a lot of emerging brotherhoods. There's a lot of emerging men's communities and men's groups, and I love that. And those groups will meet men exactly where they're at. But the group that we've put together, called the Elemental Brotherhood, we have this sort of archetype, right? We've been speaking to the embodied, integrated man, and this kind of filters into what we call the elemental man, which is basically this man who is working as a framework and a blueprint within himself with these elements that are within him and, of course, around him in nature: air, water, fire, earth, and how these elements are the core building blocks of creation, and how when we are in the embodiment of each of these within ourselves, we become that integrated embodied man. And so we teach this framework inside of our community, inside the Elemental Brotherhood. And we also have monthly council calls where you can come on and say, hey, guys, like, I'm going through this right now. I'm experiencing this win right now, or whatever it might be. I'm navigating this in my relationship. I'm going through this pattern, this addiction, or whatever it is. Bring it to the table, and this is where we can open up and talk about it. The fact is this: men need other men to heal. And we can bring all these things to our partner and all of that, but then she becomes the mother of our relationship, and that's not sexy. That doesn't create any sort of surge of energy and passion and aliveness in your relationship. It dampens it. And so come into the space, bring your challenges, bring your wins, bring it all into the space. And it's a safe, supportive space for you to really begin to really do this self-mastery work and to rise into the king, into the leader, into the father, into the steward, into the provider and protector that you truly are at your core. And see and watch your relationships, your business, your health, all of it improve, all of it improve as a result of you doing this. As within, so without. So the invitation is this: Elemental Brotherhood doors are open. Come and join us. Come journey with us. We're here for it.
Mm. Yeah, these are the spaces that this blueprint that we're talking about is really born out of. And, I remember myself 10, 12 years ago or so before I like really got going on this journey. And it's like, there's a humbling. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know until you've really been in it, the magic, the absolute just, what's the word even? Power and potential of men coming into a space like this and connecting in this way and realizing, oh shit, I'm not alone. Oh wow, I'm discovering parts of myself that I had no idea about. Wow, there's this framework that's helping me to understand and learn about myself in a way that I never even realized was there. And through a simplification of, like elemental man, the blueprint of working with your own inner elements, it's so helpful and it's so useful. And you have tools to deal with very intense emotional storms and identity crises and all these things that are happening for men right now. It's like you're getting shelter in that storm, and you're with a bunch of other men that are in a very similar place. And it's like, okay, we're all here. Where do we want to take this thing? Where do we want to take ourselves? Like, what are the hardest things right now for us to alchemize and get through? Okay, we get to be witnessed in that together. So it's not this the lone wolf thing. Like, one thing I want to say on that, it just, guys, if you're watching this, that takes so long and you never even get there.
No.
You drag it out for freaking years when you try to do it by yourself and you isolate and you let the conditioning pull you away from everything. Like, you have a chance in groups like these, in these types of communities, to advance quickly, because that's the power of unification, of all of us coming together. So it's like, you can save yourself. And I know this better than most because I did it. You, instead of dragging your ass for years, you can really accelerate your growth and get to see who it is you really are by being witnessed in your pain, in your shadows, in your place of limitation, wherever your old ego is trying to hold you in. And we're all here to come out of the prison. We're here to be who we came to this planet to be, and we were born and we're alive during these times very specifically because we wanted to be the change here. So it's a beautiful time, and it's a huge invitation.
Fuck yeah. Yes. Yeah. So men, let's rise. Let's do this. For any woman that is watching this, you can kindly extend the invitation to any man that you feel would be a fit for this, but we're in it. We're here for the long run. You can come check us out. Link is down below this video. You're going to see it down below in the description, link to the Elemental Brotherhood, and we'd love to see you on the inside. Much love to all of you. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time. Peace.